you to the first annual Saugus Hope and Remembrance Vigil. Tonight is about community, hope, and healing. It is about breaking the stigma that surrounds mental health and substance use and coming together to honor those we have lost while supporting one another in healing. We'd like to begin by expressing our gratitude to Town Manager Scott Crabtree for his support, to Jeannie Meredith for helping make this event possible, to the Saugus Police and Fire Department for their tireless work on the front lines protecting and serving our community every day, to all the community members who show up to the coalition members, giving their time and voices to help us make a difference, to Crystal Milanakis, our Regional Prevention Coordinator, for her dedication in supporting prevention efforts in both the schools and our town, to Power of Recovery and Chelsea's House for sponsoring tonight's vigil. We also extend a special thank you to the organizations and resource tables here this evening offering information and support. And most of all, we thank you, the community, for showing up, standing together, and being a part of this evening. The pain of losing a loved one never fully goes away, but by coming together, sharing hope, and lifting one another up, we can begin to heal together. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Oops. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for the Saugus Hope and Remembrance Vigil. I'm Katie Dos Santos, and I'm a member of the Saugus community. My friend Amy and I decided to start the Saugus Prevention Coalition over a year ago with the help of many individuals. One of the driving individuals in this, in our support, has been Matt Parlante, and we just wanted to thank you, Matt, for helping to create this vigil and to not accepting no for an answer. In addition to being moms of multiple children who live and attend school in Saugus, Amy and I both have extensive background and experience in working in community health and health education. We saw many communities around Massachusetts who have effective prevention coalitions, and we knew Saugus needs one. We need it. So you might ask, why do we need it? This is a group of people that we're working towards a common goal. And our mission is to improve the quality of life for our youth in Saugus community through positive experiences in a safe, adult-supported environment, and to reduce negative behaviors and promote positive pro-social actions among our youth. Our focus for this evening is to honor those we've lost to suicide and overdose, and to shine a light on the stigma that surrounds mental health, substance misuse, and addiction, and to support the families that carry their memory. We also hope to mobilize more people in our community to help prevent the trauma surrounding addiction from taking place in the future for our youth and teens and families. We have a QR code at the front table of Saugus Prevention Coalition. Jess, can you hold it up? If you want more information and you want to join our coalition, that's where you go to sign up. To begin, I'd like to introduce Father Jay from the Saugus Catholic Collaborative of Blessed Sacrament and St. Margaret's to say a few words.
Thank you kindly. It's wonderful to be able to gather together for something so important. Again, my name is Father Jay. I've been the pastor here in Saugus of both Catholic churches, St. Margaret's and Blessed Sacrament, for a little over 4 years now. In the rooms, I'm known as JM. Grateful to be in recovery, almost 11 years in AA. Got sober in Detroit, even about 10 years after becoming a Catholic priest. The greatest point in my life was getting sober and working a great program with so many people around me to help keep sober. And that little extra caveat that I have as a priest to be able to share those experiences with my parishioners, with people in the town, being a public person to share with God's courage about addiction, about being taking those difficult things in society to erase the stigma of addiction, of suicide. We have to talk about these important topics without fail. It is so important to just destroy the stigma, talk openly, be able to get help from those who need it, and allow people, when the stigma is erased, will feel more free to come and ask for that help. So before I end, we just want to place ourselves in the presence of God, our higher power, to give strength and to remember those who have gone before us, those who have been entrapped in addiction, who have lost their lives, those who have gone to God through suicide. May we pray for them and pray for those who are left behind, to gather together to be strengthened by that one God. Thank you.
Our first speaker tonight is Shannon White. Shannon is a woman in long-term recovery and addiction therapist at Chapters Recovery Center, and she spent the last 10 years serving as a trauma response advocate in Charlestown. Most importantly, she's a proud mom of 4 daughters. Please join me in welcoming Shannon.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shannon, and I'm a grateful woman in long-term recovery. It's always a blessing and a privilege to be able to stand up here and share my experience, strength, and hope. I grew up in Charlestown, and if anybody knows anything about Charlestown, everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows everybody's business. It's a blessing and a curse, 1 square mile. But one thing I can say about my community is when tragedy strikes, we come together like nothing I've ever seen before. And my community has definitely had its fair share of tragedy. Charlestown at one point had the highest fatal overdose rate in Massachusetts in 1 square mile in 2005. So you can imagine how my community was impacted because we all know each other so well. I grew up in a 1-parent home. My father was an alcoholic and a drug addict. He was in and out of my life till I was about 10 years old. And one thing I always like to share is being a woman in recovery for 21 years and working in the field of addiction and mental health for 19 years, one thing that I've learned is you'll hear a lot of people talking about that they think alcohol is the gateway drug, or that marijuana is the gateway drug, or nicotine is the gateway drug, and I believe that some form of trauma is the gateway drug. And when we think about trauma, a lot of times people think about some catastrophic event, right? And that is true for a lot of people. But a lot of times it could be something like neglect, and trauma isn't necessarily what happens to a person. It's what happens inside of a person as a result of the trauma. And one of my favorite leading experts in addiction, trauma, and childhood development, his name is Gabor Mate. He says addiction isn't the problem, but in an attempt to solve a problem. Addiction is a response to pain, not a moral failing, right? So we have to ask ourselves not why the addiction, but why the pain, right? So we have to address those underlying causes because the drugs and alcohol are just a symptom. But I always share about my first traumatic childhood experience, and I grew up in a family of 4, and I'm the second. I have a sister that's 5 years older than me from my mother's first marriage, and I have a brother and a sister that's 2 years younger than me, 1 year and 2 years younger than me. So I remember laying in bed at night waiting for the doorknob to turn, wondering if it would be one of those nights where my father would get arrested or he would, pass out on the couch, and usually it was him getting arrested. And what would happen is he would be beating my mother physically on a regular basis, and my older sister would run to the neighbor's house, my younger brother and sister would hide under the bed, and I'd sit on the couch and hold my mother as a 5-year-old little girl because that was my way of protecting her. And I remember he was leaving, and I ran to go lock the door, and I was the same size as the doorknob, and he kicked the door in to come back and hit my mother one more time, and the doorknob split my head open. And I remember being so angry at him for putting us through this, and then feeling bad when the handcuffs would go on him at the same time. And that was very confusing for me. But this was my first traumatic childhood experience. This is a piece of where a lot of my addiction issues stemmed from, because I had those abandonment issues, those feelings of unworthiness. Something must be wrong with me because here's this man that's supposed to love, protect, and provide, and he's doing the complete opposite. So something must be wrong with me. I had my first drink at the age of 12. It progressed all through the years with marijuana, with cocaine, until finally I became an IV heroin user and overdosed multiple times. I've outlived all my childhood friends. I have group pictures of me with 10, 20 people, and I'm the only one that's alive. I've been clean and sober for 21 years. I got sober, yep, thank you. One thing that I recognize is like, it's not a very common thing that a girl from Charlestown who's an IV heroin user who overdosed multiple times get it at the age of 25. I truly, truly believe what was meant for my harm is being used for good. I believe that this is God's purpose for my life. I also do trauma response in Charlestown, which you just heard a few minutes ago. I've been doing that for about 10 years. 9 times out of 10 when we're responding to some form of trauma, it is a fatal overdose, but we have had our fair share of suicides as well. And suicide is a completely different loss. It impacts communities. It leaves a heavy, quiet ripple in a way that is indescribable. But I've seen a lot of compassion for families in the Charlestown community. I have 4 daughters. My oldest daughter was 4 going on 5 when I got sober, and I was in and out of multiple treatment programs, in and out of multiple detoxes. I would only go to Somerville Detox because that was my favorite detox. And like, who wants to have a favorite detox? Like, think about that. You know, and I remember someone said to me, Shannon, would you die for your daughter? And I said, of course. And, you know, they said, well, why don't you live for her? And that was just such a profound statement that struck me so hard. And I realized I was no good to her unless I took care of myself first. Sadly, my 2 oldest daughters, they're 26 and 17. I know I look too young to have a 26-year-old, but I do. But their dad died of an overdose in 2016. His brother died of an overdose in 2013, and his sister died of an overdose in 2003. So my children's Nana buried all 3 of her children. And I just love that, you know, everybody came out tonight, and just to be able to come together to break down stigma and honor those that we lost and bring hope and healing to those that are still struggling is so, so important, and it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shannon. Next up, we have Eric Mazio. Eric is also a man in long-term recovery, and he serves as the Assistant Director of Youth Substance Use Prevention for the City of Everett. He's very active in the recovery community and is always willing to help others along the way. Let's welcome Eric.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I want to thank Matt for asking me to come out and say a few words. And I asked Matt before this, I said, how long do I have to speak? And he said, just go until God tells you to stop. Well, fortunately, God never tells me to stop, so buckle up, we'll be here. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm also a person in long-term recovery, and my sobriety date is October 28, 2018. And as you heard, I work for the City of Everett as the Assistant Director of Youth Substance Use Prevention. But before all this, like, I'd like to say I think it's a beautiful thing to see the community come together on like such an important topic. And as Shannon was saying, it's the importance of like alcohol is going to be there, the drugs are going to be there, but it's like the underlying issues. Because I know for myself, where like I work in the prevention field, is I hardly ever talk to the youth about drugs and alcohol and the effects of it. We know all those things, but like what I try to touch on is like being a man, being able to cry, being able to talk about your feelings, breaking that stigma, things that are going on inside. Because like for me, I know that it was a party thing for a while, and then like alcohol and drugs stopped doing things for me and started doing things to me. And I had these issues going on inside that I didn't know what they were, because I wouldn't speak on it, I wouldn't talk to people, and I was too afraid. I was scared, and I was running off of fear. And I grew up in Everett, and that's why like it doesn't discriminate. You can see as we've heard others of their stories and people being in recovery, and I'm sure you know, and everybody's affected by it. I didn't come from a bad home or anything like that. I had everything I needed, not necessarily wanted. I was a really good football player for high school, and but I knew like inside of me always, I was always like trying to gain your approval or like talk to people a certain way and acting out just because I wanted to be like that cool person, because I was so uncomfortable with myself. And I didn't know what I didn't know at the time, and I didn't know that it would take years of me in and out of detox, in and out of jail, until I would finally be willing to do whatever it took. And that willingness was very hard to come by, till my life started to get better. and I started to get better. And I know that, like, for me, it's like the addiction, the alcoholism, like that's there and that's always going to be there. And I have to do things every single day for the rest of my life in order to keep this recovery, and that's okay. That's why I always try to give back. I try to stay involved in this 12-step program. And the main thing, and I always knew, like, I'm coming from the labor's union, and I always knew that if I have a chance to go and help the youth, especially in my city, I really want to do that, right? Because that's where it starts. And I think, you know, we had programs back in the day, but like hearing it from somebody who's been there, who's like lived that life in and out of jail, in and out of detox, it holds that much more weight, especially to the youth. And, you know, some days, like, I'll just, like today, I go by the schools during lunchtime just to say hi. Some days I'll be going there and I'm just saying what's up, because I want them to know that they have a person that they can rely on, right? And a person that they can talk to. Some days I'm going out with them and I'm just playing quarterback at recess with them, like just to gain that connection. But for me, it's about that connection, and it's about being real with them and letting them know that it's okay to talk about fears. It's okay to talk about insecurities. I used to think that, like, real men don't cry, and it's the opposite, right? It's okay to, like, talk about our feelings. It's okay to say, I'm having a bad day, and talk to others about it and have others be able to give advice back, because it's tough, right? And the one thing, too, is, like, I always try to touch on, you never know what somebody's going through. That's why, like, I used to take things so personal, you know, driving, and I'm flipping off people and this, that, and the third. And it's like, now I try to look at things from a different way, and I know that's through my recovery that helped me with that, through sponsorship, the 12 steps. I try to look at, like, you know, I don't know what that person's going through, and how can I help somebody? And it doesn't cost much to just be a nice person, just to hold the door for somebody. That's why, like, we know, and it's about, like, I'm an energy person, right? You get what you give. Like, if I'm giving off good energy, good things are going to happen. If I'm giving off bad things, like, bad things are going to happen. And it's important to me to know that and keep that in the forefront, because the main thing that I have, the best thing that I have in my life right now today is my recovery. The relationships that I've gained from it, right? People that, like, I've you know, done things. My father's my best friend today. You know, and there's certain things that I know that, like, you know, people pass away and people go on, but I try to live my life on, like, how can I help them live on through me? How can I show that they were a good person? By me being a good person, by me trying to help others. And I mean that, and I literally live that. Is like every day of my life I try to think of, like, how can I be a good person? How can I, and I'm human, listen, don't get me wrong. I'm human, you're not gonna hit me. Like, do I fall short? Absolutely, a lot more than I'd like to. But I try again, and I try again, and I talk to people about it, and I take the advice, and I try to really realize, like, what is going on in my life, and know that it's okay. Like, mental health, it's a huge thing right now. Mental health is a huge thing, and it all goes hand in hand. Mental health, addiction, substance use. Like, for me, it was like, I would think that I'm depressed and anxious and bipolar and all those things, and then when I take the drugs and alcohol away, Eric still has to deal with Eric. So I had to get involved in something, and I had to believe in something that was greater than myself in order to be able to kind of, like, get a grasp on this at times and know that, like, this is not going away, and that's okay. And all those detoxes and jails that I went to, like, I try not to dwell on any of that. Everything happens for a reason, and it made me the person that I am today, and I'm not mad at that. And it's like breaking that stigma of, like, the alcoholic, the addict. Like, we're not bad people. We make bad choices at times. And, you know, you see the family members and the brothers, the sisters, and stuff that happens, and we don't realize when we're going through it that, like, I always thought that, like, oh, I'm just hurting myself, and then now seeing and knowing others that are still going through it that I love daily, and like, seeing the effects of it, it's a huge thing. And that's why I think it's important, and, like, thank you all for coming out, and thank you to Matt, because these things are huge, just to show that the community cares, to show that there's resources here, to show that people care. And I know these resources care because I see them at some of the things that I'm doing, right, in the city of Everett. And, like, these people care, and, like, it's okay to, like, go somewhere and try to figure things out for a little while. And the main thing that I always try to remember at times, right, it's okay to not be okay. We're human beings. It's okay. Like, we all go through stuff. We all have hard times. We all need somebody to talk to, right? Like, for me, it was like I would be stuffing those things in for years, and I would wonder why I'm not getting better. I would wonder why I keep ending up in detox. I keep ending up in jail again. And like, hurting people that I love dearly. And I didn't mean to do that. I genuinely didn't, but I didn't know any other way. And then when I finally listened, and I would go to these meetings and people would say, get a sponsor, go through the steps, I would never think that like, oh, you're better than me or I'm worse than you or anything like that. I just thought, I'm not that lucky, because this is what my mind does to me, and this is what the disease does to me. And if you suffer with the word disease, if you struggle with the disease of it, my first sponsor told me, just break down the word disease, diseased. Like, I'm diseased from ease and comfort. I don't have it. And like, that's what my mind would be telling me, is like, I'm not a good person, I'm not gonna get this help. These steps aren't gonna work for me. But and listen, if the steps aren't your thing, that's okay too. I'm not trying to push anything on anybody. Like, any recovery, anything that you're doing to not put any like drugs and alcohol in your system, amazing. But like, that's what works for me. And once I started to do it, I started to get better. I started to feel better. And I chased that, like I chased the drugs and the alcohol. I wanted more of it. So then I started sponsoring guys, and I started to realize like how much better it would make me feel to help others. And that's why like I came into the job that I have now, because like I want to help the youth. Like, I genuinely care, and I'm genuinely trying to be there for them. And like, these things are huge. It's huge to come together as a community, because like I say to people in school, like, yeah, you can get the grades, you can get this, you can get that, but like, if you're going down that road, none of that matters. None of that matters. And like, teaching people at a young age, teaching our youth at a young age that it's okay to talk about these things. It's okay to be a person. Like, they see me and they get it confused. Like, I'm a big teddy bear. Like, they see the size and the tattoos. Whatever. I love talking to people. I love knowing what makes you tick. Like, I love talking about things that like might be bothering me or whatever. Like, those are things that I had to get comfortable with, that I wasn't comfortable with for so long. And it took a lot for me to get there. And again, I have my days, I have my times where I'm still uncomfortable with certain things, and that's fine, because I'm human. So again, I don't want to go on too much, but I wanted to thank Matt. I want to thank you guys for coming out. Shannon, amazing as always. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Finally, we'll hear from Nick Zell. Nick is a lifelong Saugus resident, a man in long-term recovery, and the CEO of Zell Insurance and Financial Solutions. He's a loving husband to his wife, Jenna, who's also in recovery, and together they're the proud parents of Nicholas Jr. and Luca. Please give a warm welcome to Nick.
Whew. I've never done this before. I guess I'm supposed to start with, I'm Nick, and I'm a man in long-term recovery. So I got asked to come here by Matt. Thank you for asking me, Matt. Thank you, Power of Recovery, Damon, Maddie, everyone over there. As a resident at Chelsea's house for 2 years when I initially got clean this time, so place holds a special spot in my heart. But I'm also here because my family's been affected by overdose. March 27 of 2020, my sister passed away. She was on the methadone clinic, and the clinic's closed down because of COVID, and I'll never forget, I lived next door to my parents with my family, and phone rang, my father told me to come next door, and I immediately knew exactly what was going on. I know the way my sister used, and it was the worst call that my mother ever could have got, and it was devastating for our family. Our family's been affected by the disease of addiction, alcoholism. It's wiped out half of the family. My mother's the only one left out of her brothers and sisters, and it's tortured my family. But I thankfully, God saw different for me. Forever grateful for the Saugus Police Department for doing what I couldn't do for myself and taking me off the street and locking me away for a little while so that I could get everything out of my system and recognize where my disease had taken me. Greg King, he called him while I was in there, and Greg set me up at the bed at a treatment center, and I got out of Middleton and I went straight into treatment, and from there I went to another place, and from there I went to Chelsea's house, and that started off in January 22nd of 2016. I was hanging out over there at the police department for the night, and then that was the last day that I ever used, thankfully. And through active recovery, I'm a member of Narcotics Anonymous. Eric mentioned it, like, God, prayer, step work, sponsorship, helping others, talking to other addicts every day, like, that's been my playbook for staying in recovery for this long. And, it's worked up to this far, and, like, I haven't changed anything. And, my life is completely unrecognizable to where it was when I first started this journey. I was living like an animal, homeless, always living on probation, always in court, always, my life was a disaster. And, from allowing other men that I have never met before, that was like the only people that could help me, was other men in recovery. And like I was willing to do absolutely anything. I had gotten clean before, and like I chose to take my own will back and do it the way I wanted to do it, and burn my life right back to the ground. My childhood best friend's sister is here, and she's going to read some names, and I was just reading over the list of names that she has, and the disease of addiction has devastated this town. It's shocking to read how many names are just on that one list that she's holding. And, people I love, people I care about. And, I stand up here a very grateful person today, but I also stand up here with a lot of survivor's guilt, because I see what, I'm lucky. I'm very lucky. My sister, recovery is not for everyone. That is a really tough pill to swallow. But that's just the God's honest truth, is not everyone is going to make it. And clearly the reason we're here. And, it's tough seeing all those names and seeing how many people are affected by this. And, suicide as well. Like I just texted my friend. I didn't know his brother's name was on the list, but it is, thankfully. And I asked him if we could read his name up here, because, we lost him 2 years ago, another Saugus guy, and to suicide. And that was the first person I knew that went from suicide. I mean, God knows how many people from overdose, but from suicide, he was the first. And Eric said it, or Shannon said it, one or the other, but it's a whole different feeling when I think I know what was going through his head in those last moments, because I've been there myself, and it's it's a very difficult thing to go through. But I'm just grateful I'm here. Like, my life, like I said, is completely different. Like, I have 2 beautiful children, a beautiful wife who's also in recovery, and to be able to like do something like this and participate in this, like Matt asked me, I called him, I had my sister's name, and he asked me to speak, and my initial thought is, what excuse can I come up with to not come up here and talk in front of people that I may see around town that may not know, what my past was. But I'm not ashamed of my past. I'm grateful for everything, and I'm grateful that my life went in the direction, because if I didn't go in this direction, I would have never met my wife who's in recovery, and I would never have these 2 beautiful children that I have. And it's the town definitely needs something like this, and I'm very, very happy that this is here for, because this type of stuff wasn't around back in the early 2000s when I got into this, and it's a necessary thing. It's a lot different today. Like, I am a survivor of overdose as well. Like, I don't know the firefighters' names in Lynn. I wish I did, but 5 Narcans and one firefighter just decided to shoot me in the arm and brought me back. And they were giving up, and then one person, I don't know who he was. I'll never know who he was. But I'm grateful for that firefighter, because he took one more chance on me. And without that guy, I wouldn't have these kids. I wouldn't have my wife, and my parents would be down with two kids gone. So I think that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. If everyone could now light their candle, we're going to have Kristen and Mimi read the names of those we've lost to overdose and suicide. They're going to ring a bell. You know that, right? No.
Billy Bain, Rich Barry Jr., Michael Bean, Kevin Boynton, Chris Cheeks Brown, Danielle Capola, Michael Robert Chesley, Chris Collins, Danielle Crane, William Crane, Heather Dacey, Dave DeLuigi, Jesse Doherty, Jeff Driscoll, Michael Keith Florentino, Michael Frask, Janelle Garland, Edward Teddy Giadone, Lauren Goodwin, Michael Halley, Jonathan Nunez, Scott Carroll,
Mike Harris, Pat Hashem, Sam Hughes, Andy Ives, Justin Kimmerly, Greg King, Roger Landry, Derek Lyons, Shafon McCarthy, Colt Meredith, Luke Meredith, Kenny Mordaunt, Mike Panzini, Richard Pryor, Taylor E. Richards, Taylor Richards, Eric Runge, Jamie Canzillo, Brian Shields, Erin Sopa, Tim Strader, Christina Swain, David Eric Tarasi, Sean O'Brien, Sean Welsh, Billy Wormstead, Michelle Zell. Blessings to them all. Oh, you're welcome.
Before we close tonight, I want to take a moment to thank each of you for being here. By coming together, we not only honor the memory of those we've lost to overdose and suicide, but we also remind one another that no one walks this journey alone. Recovery, healing, and hope are possible, and gatherings like this prove the power of community, compassion, and connection. If you'd like to stay involved, please consider joining our coalition. For more information, see myself, Katie, or Matt, or find us. We're going to start a Facebook. You can find us on that. Let's carry this light forward, support each other, and continue to build a future where every life is valued, remembered, and celebrated. Thank you for joining us tonight, and may we all leave here with hearts a little fuller and hope a little stronger.